Ebenezer and the Invisible World is a hand-drawn Metroidvania and fantasy reimagination of the classic novel A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Experience a supernatural Victorian England filled with ghosts and spirits chained to the mortal world, and master a deep set of Metroidvania powers and abilities imagined as ghosts assisting Ebenezer in his quest to protect the city. Summon attack and movement ghosts, spirit kids, acquire ghostly weapons, discover enchanted heirlooms, collect rare materials to exchange at Jasper's wandering bazaar and food court, all as you advance through the storyline, find secrets, and uncover the truth about Caspar Malthus. Christmas in Victoria-era England comes alive in this beautiful, meticulously crafted, hand-drawn, and hand-animated 2D Metroidvania. Now, if all of that sounds pretty good to you, then you're going to want to watch the rest of this review. So without further ado, let's jump into it. It's Christmas Eve, and London is shrouded in the eerie presence of ghosts, bound to their afterlife by chains, unable to offer aid to those in need. However, since Ebenezer's encounter with Jacob Marley, he is now able to perceive these spectral beings, who task him with completing benevolent deeds on their behalf. Step into the shoes of Ebenezer Scrooge, and embark on a quest to aid the ghosts in their pursuits. As a reward for your efforts, each ghost will lend its own remarkable abilities to aid Ebenezer on his journey. The abilities range from special attacks and healing to passive abilities like the abilities to double jump or glide through the air, which will then allow more of the game's map to be explored. In the depths of London, there are spirits that linger without any desire to aid the living. These are the unrepentant. Ghosts who have no guilt or remorse for their wasted mortal lives. They have retreated to the dark corners of the city, abandoned buildings, forgotten tunnels, and deep forests, and in their isolation, they have lost touch with the human world. Their forms have twisted and contorted into monstrous aberrations, reflections of their wicked deeds. They represent an entirely new level of unnatural and eerie existence. Follow the chaos brought on by Caspar Malthus. The unrepentant have grown increasingly belligerent and aggressive towards the living. Alright, now that the stage has been set for the game's story and premise, let's dive into the gameplay elements. Now, if you've played a Metroidvania game before, you're going to feel right at home with Ebenezer. Combat feels like most Metroidvania games, and I found the enemy hit windows to be on point, and the platforming felt tight throughout the entire game, never feeling cheap, which sometimes can really hinder the experience when playing a Metroidvania style game. One of the main gameplay elements is Ebenezer's ability to summon ghosts that can perform special abilities. Special attacks range from attacks to healing to passable abilities like the ability to double jump, glide, or pass through magically sealed doors. Throughout the game, you'll find unique weapons, including different types of canes that are best suited to attack the living with, and then you'll have ghostly weapons that are best suited to use against spirits. Other gameplay features you'll see in Ebenezer and the Invisible World consists of item collecting, and you can use those items to craft upgrades for ghost, your health, and your spirit meter. Another cool thing are the 30 heirlooms that are hidden throughout the world map. You can equip up to 4 heirlooms at a time, and each heirloom offers different abilities. For example, one might allow you to swim underwater or run faster, while others can buff your ghost attack power, but it's up to us as the player to pick the perfect combination, and you can change it up anytime you want within seconds by accessing the in-game menu. Now guys, diving into the graphics, right from the get-go, I was taken away by the art style of this game. The hand-drawn art style looks absolutely stunning on the PS5 and lends well to the classic novel. Throughout the entire adventure, the graphics never got stale. Each new area I discovered felt like pure eye candy. I wish more studios went the route of hand-drawn animation, but I understand that hand-drawn animation is a bit of a lost art in both games and film, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now when it comes to the game's soundtrack, I think the soundtrack for the game fits well and has a really nice Christmassy holiday vibe to it. The soundtrack was never overbearing, and it just felt like it fit nicely into the background. Now the soundtrack isn't going to be memorable like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but it certainly fits the Christmas theme, so overall, I was happy with the direction they took in crafting the soundtrack. Now if you're asking who is this game for, honestly I would say it's for anyone that enjoys Metroidvanias, of course fans of the Christmas Carol book or movie, and anyone who really enjoys the Christmas season, and for gamers that appreciate it when developers take a chance and do something different and risky, like making a video game about Ebenezer Scrooge, but also respecting the source material and weaving an endearing story for us to enjoy throughout the game. Alright guys, next let's dive into the content. Now I was able to finish the game in about 10 hours, but like any great Metroidvania, you don't necessarily see the entire game by the time the credits roll. So after completing the game, I still had 2 weapons I didn't find, about 12 out of the 30 heirlooms still needed to be found, and my map wasn't completely explored, but fairly close. There is no post-game exploration, so if you want to do and see everything, you'll need to load up your last save before the final boss, which I did and intend to continue to do until I see the entire game because I did enjoy it that much. The side quests were especially enjoyable and didn't feel like your typical NPC fetch quest type side quest. The developers and writers did a nice job of creating characters with meaningful backstories in ways I didn't expect, which had me pleasantly surprised, and I'll give a few examples of that later on in the review. Now to talk a little bit about the game's difficulty, I found that the game wasn't difficult, but in no way felt mind-numbingly easy. I still needed to make sure I chose the best weapon for the enemies I was facing. I needed to use my special ghost abilities in combat, and you can't attack an enemy guns a-blazing style and expect to come out on the other side of the fight still alive. I would say the game's difficulty felt pretty well balanced throughout the entire adventure. Alright, let's talk about the grinding aspect in the game. Now, of course, Metroidvanias that have RPG elements are likely to have some grinding involved, but since there is no leveling system here, the grinding is pretty light. For example, if you want to improve one of your ghost attack abilities, you'll need to defeat 50 enemies with that ability, and by doing so, you'll improve the ghost's overall attack power. If you're into collecting trophies or achievements, one of them is tied to maxing out all of your ghost's abilities. I found it to be pretty simple to max them out as long as you made sure to remind yourself to use those abilities. Now when it comes to the pacing, the story pacing never felt out of place or like the developers suddenly ran out of time and had to bring us to the end of the game. And at the same time, the game never overstayed its welcome. So overall, I felt the pacing was very natural. Now this is the big one for me, the emotion and the charm that you feel in this game. So in Ebenezer and the Invisible World, it really shined in the emotion and charm department. This story, including this side quest, actually deals with deep themes of regret. You've got Ebenezer meeting all these ghost spirits, and each of them has their own backstory that tells their story that involves their own personal regret in some way, like wishing they'd treated certain people better or chosen to say something when something bad was happening to somebody else versus standing there and watching it happen. Or maybe they wanted to spend more time with their family when they needed them most, etc. And these conversations Ebenezer has with these chained ghost spirits turn into your side quest that you can find by bringing up the in-game menu. What I found to be most surprising is the regrets the chained spirits have are extremely relatable regrets we have in the real world, which in turn makes you want to complete the side quest. I truly believe the developers want to create a game in which we would pause to reflect a little bit on our own lives for a moment before we continued playing, and I would say they were actually quite successful at that. I'd be shocked if someone played through the entire game and said they couldn't personally relate to one of the chained spirits' regrets. And honestly, that's not something I was expecting and that I ended up really appreciating. And apart from the beautiful graphics in the game, I think I'll remember that most when I think about this game years down the line. Now, when it comes to replayability, guys, there really is not much replayability here unless you want to make playing through the game each year a Christmas tradition, since we really don't have any Christmassy holiday-themed video games. There are no trophies or achievements tied to beating the game multiple times. It is a quick enough and enjoyable enough adventure that you could play through it once a year to help kick off the Christmas season. Now, when it comes to the game's fun factor, guys, I had an absolute blast playing Ebenezer, and although I said the game never outstayed its welcome, I actually would have welcomed it to do so because I had that much fun playing the game. And for me, that's how you know a game is really good. Alright guys, with all that said, it's now time for me to wrap this review up and put a bow on it. Ebenezer and the Invisible World is a game I didn't know much about until I saw a trailer for it just a few weeks before its release back on November 3rd, 2023. Now, most video games are firmly on my radar for years before they are released, but every once in a while, a game sneaks up on me that I didn't know about, and I'm glad I didn't miss out on Ebenezer. From the hand-drawn graphics, to the Christmassy vibe, to the surprisingly deep and heartfelt story, to the competent gameplay and Metroidvania level design, I walked away saying Ebenezer was well worth the $20 and 10 plus hours I put into it, and that I am going to dive right back in to get the Platinum Trophy simply because I want to see every ounce of the game's world and story. That's how much I enjoyed the game, and I totally recommend everyone to play Ebenezer and the Invisible World. Let me know in the comments section below if you plan on picking up Ebenezer. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, please help me out by subscribing to my channel, and I hope everyone has an awesome day. What's up guys, if you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button as it helps me out a ton, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Over here to the left, you can find all my social media info, or just remember to search for ThunderSteve85. As always, thank you guys for tuning in, and remember, you're never too old to play video games.